What's going on, pre-Chiro students? This is Dr. Ben Glass again. I'm here to just help shine a light on some of the leaders in the profession for you and help you explore what's available to you if you decide to choose this path to become a chiropractor. Today, we're in discussion with someone who's doing something really interesting and really relevant to help get chiropractic out there and reach the masses. Dr. Tabor Smith, thank you for joining the podcast. And can you just introduce yourself, share a little of what your background was, and where you decided to go to chiropractic school? What attracted you to this profession?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for having me on the podcast. It's an honor to be here. And yeah, my family didn't know. I mean, I had no idea what chiropractic was. I don't think my family really understood what it was either. But I got to be a teenager, and I was really into sports my whole life. My dad was actually a high school basketball coach, and when I was 16, I was about a junior in high school, and I had just made the varsity basketball team. I was so excited I was going to get to play basketball for my dad, and I started developing this pain in my lower back, and it would get really bad sometimes. I wouldn't be able to play or practice, and so my parents did what most people do. They gave me over-the-counter medications, and it really didn't help, to tell you the truth, and much at all, and it kept getting worse. And the season was started, and it got bad. I mean, I would move in certain positions, and it would shoot shocking pains down my legs. And if anybody's ever had that type of pain, it's debilitating. I mean, it's miserable. And I would sit on the bench and watch my friends play basketball and play the game I loved. And I thought, I mean, it kept getting worse. The medicines that I was taking wasn't helping. My parents would take me to the medical doctor to get stronger pain medications. I was on anti-inflammatories. Um, and I thought I was just going to be like that forever. And I even remember one night I woke up in the middle of the night, and my back just locked down, and I was in spasms, and I was screaming. And my parents took me to the emergency room, and they did all their tests. And after a night in the emergency room, I left with stronger pain meds, more anti-inflammatories, and muscle relaxers. And it was miserable.
Mhm.
Uh, thank God somebody told my family about chiropractic. They had had some similar types of issues, and that the chiropractor in our hometown had helped them. So, we didn't know what else to do. And I will never forget going to the chiropractor and him taking x-rays and showing me an area in my lower back that, as he said, shifted out of alignment so far it caused a stress fracture. And basically, what at L5 I have a spondylitic spondylolisthesis, which I didn't know that then, and he didn't use that word. I wouldn't have understood it if he did. Um, but that was flared up, and it was causing my issues. And he said that he had helped people with that before. It wasn't something that went away immediately, but wanted me to start a care plan. And I remember starting going to the chiropractor every other morning before school. I'd wake up really early, go get adjusted, and then go to school. And man, he was right. It wasn't immediately that my pain went away, but it was, within 3 months, I was a normal, functioning teenager again. I got my life back. I was out of the pain. I got to play basketball my senior year. What was one of the highest scorers in the state. Went on to play college basketball, and I thought, my goodness, if I could help people with that type of pain, that's life changing, right? That's what I want to do with my life, and I want to become a chiropractor. And so I, got all my stuff together, planning to go to chiropractic school. And it was actually my first year of chiropractic school is when I got a phone call that I needed to come home, that my mom had passed away. And she was only 47 years old, and she died of a massive heart attack. And I got my stuff together. I went home, and if you've ever been through that, your family member, you have to clean out all their stuff. And I remember she had this overnight case that always sat next to her bed. She took it with her if she went anywhere. And I grabbed it, and I opened it, and it was just full of pill bottles. And I sat there, and I pulled out one by one. I started counting them, and I counted 21 prescription medications that my mom was on at the time she passed away. And that's when it hit me like a ton of bricks, like that she was always looking for that next cure, that next thing, that solution from the outside, that you could take it and you could put it on the inside, and it would just fix everything. Right. And it was a representation of society. Really, it's what our medical community is founded on is this magical pill that you could put in there and would fix everything. But the problem is there's no magic in that pill, that it just keeps snowballing until she was on 5 and then 10 and then 15 and then 21 medications. And I realized that, chiropractic had helped me with my back pain, and that's what we thought chiropractic was about. But I was learning in chiropractic school that, oh my gosh, it helps with so many other things, that the nervous system is the master system of the body. It controls everything, and healing and function. And my mom, her pancreas wasn't working. She was a diabetic. She had neuropathy. She had a lot of other health issues. Her kidneys had failed. And I thought, wow, her nervous system must have been damaged. Like, her spine must be a wreck. Why didn't anybody tell us to have her spine checked, where she had never been? But I knew she had been to hospitals. And so what I did was, in chiropractic school, they give you that white coat that you have. And I thought I looked important in it. And I put it on, and I went into the hospital, and I asked if I could check out my mom's x-rays. And because I wanted to see what her spine looked like. And they did. They had them. They gave them to me. In fact, I kept them. I didn't give them back. I still have them in my office. When I do workshops, I show them. There's a stack of imaging. I mean, probably 100, because back then this was before everything was digital, right? And it's probably $100,000 worth of imaging. It's not just X-rays. There's CT scans, MRIs, brain scans. There's everything you can think of in the stack. And it took me hours to go through in front of a view box and look at everything, looking for my mom's spine. But guess what is not in that entire stack? There's not one picture of my mom's spine, not one X-ray. She had neuropathy, so there's X-rays of her ankles, and she had knee pain, so there's X-rays of her knees. She had
Mm.
liver failure, so there's CT scan of her kidneys. She had severe migraines, so there's a nucleotide brain scan in there. But she didn't have back pain that was really bad enough to elicit a medical X-ray. And I realized that it's not medicine's fault. I understand they probably saved her life multiple times. They did their job, but I think it's chiropractors that have dropped the ball, because she should have known to go to a chiropractor. We should all know to go to a chiropractor to have our spine and nervous system checked, right? And I believe if she would have, they would have found that her spine was damaged, was subluxated, and may have been causing a lot of her issues. And would chiropractic have miraculously made her live to be 100 years old? Maybe not, but I promise you it would have improved her life, improved the quality of her life, and I believe it would have made a huge difference. And so that's why I've been on a mission to share that message and to tell people about the real power of chiropractic.
Yeah, I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing a story that's so close, near, and dear to your heart. And there's a couple of things that I'd love for you to just touch on before we move on in this conversation. You mentioned spondylytics, spondylolisthesis. You've mentioned taking pictures of the spine. You mentioned a couple of things around X-ray. Can you just mention how X-ray is important to a chiropractor in clinical practice, and how it can be useful in better understanding or taking a picture of somebody's health, somebody's life expression?
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, you know, palpation is valuable as well. There's some things we can palpate, we can feel, we can adjust on, but in 13 years of practice, and seeing thousands of patients through my office, I'll tell you, there's nothing more specific and accurate as being able to take an x-ray of somebody's spine and being able to see what's going on. Not to mention, it's not even about things that you might miss on palpation. It's not even about a cancer or a broken bone. It's not about that. It's about the accuracy of the adjustment and what's going on with alignment. And I've tried myself to palpate and document what's going on and what alignment. And you take an x-ray, and usually you're not completely accurate with that palpation, and that accuracy could make a big difference for that patient, right? That we could adjust someone wrong, you could adjust someone right. And if if you have your technique down, and it requires taking x-rays, then we want to be as accurate as possible for each patient that comes in my office. The way I look at it, so I have twins, and when they were born, one of them had a heart defect, and he had to go through a couple of heart surgeries, and the surgeon did corrective care basically on his cardiovascular system. And I wanted that surgeon to be as accurate as possible. I mean, I wanted him to eat, breathe, sleep his technique I hope he had been at every seminar in the entire world that could be. I hope that he thought about nothing else but my son's heart when he was doing that procedure. And it really showed me, you know, when a mom brings their kid in for me to check their spine, they want that precision, that accuracy. There's no room for mistakes whenever we're adjusting. And thank God it's not heart surgery. I get it. One little mistake may not be as massive as some other professions like that, but it is important. It is important to me and my patients, and in making that difference in their life. So
Mhm.
we, we follow that to a T, and we want to be very specific and accurate with all of our patients.
hmm Before we get into all the projects you've been involved with in your career, can you just share what your trajectory was like, some of your fundamental training, some of your mentors that you had, and some of the influences you had along the path that helped shape you and develop yourself into becoming a chiropractor that you are today?
Man, I would love to share that. So I graduated from Parker College of Chiropractic, or I think it's Parker University now, and a- a- and I didn't, I was around a few philosophical clubs, but I really didn't get it, and I think a lot of chiropractors don't when they first come out of school. And I really encourage them to get around that philosophy and some of the clubs that kind of have that, because I went back to New Mexico for the first, I think, 6 months to a year, and I practiced in a PI clinic where we were seeing, car accidents, and we were just doing a lot of insurance, and it was something that wasn't motivating to me at all. And I thought, man, I'm just gonna, I thought about other things. I thought about what is it, PA school, and all those other things. So I could tell I wasn't in a very strong understanding of chiropractic at that moment in my life. But thank God, and I really do thank God. I think it was divine that He put me in an office. Dr. Shane Hand in North Texas, one of the largest chiropractic offices in the state of Texas, and I was like, well, I'll just practice here for a year or two before I go to PA school, and just for the salary and make some money. And he was seeing 1,400 visits a week in that office, and I jumped in adjusting 300 patients. Just amazing, right? And I'll never forget his procedures was that you would start care. It's a 3-month initial care plan. At 3 months, you have to come back in, and we did what was called a group report of findings, or it was basically like a re-report, right? So everybody had their re-X-rays, and everybody would come in, and there would be 5 or 10 people in this room that had been in the office for 3 months, and Dr. Hand would stand up at the front every day, and he would start at the first person. He'd be like, "Tell me what you've experienced over the last 3 months." And that person would be like, "I'm not having headaches anymore. My digestive problems are better. My kids are happier." Like, I mean, we would go through, and I would count, because I was like, "This is amazing. I can't believe so many people are having so many good results." And I would literally like mark down how many had a good result. And every once in a while, like maybe every 50 people, there'd be one that would be like, I'm not noticing any difference yet. And I don't know, maybe they were, or they weren't, or just their body hasn't expressed it yet. But I would notice about 98 out of 100 people had some amazing result. The problem that they came in was gone. You know what I mean? And I was like, if any medical, you know, achievement, invention, or pill had a 98% like improvement rate, like accuracy, I mean, you'd win the Nobel Prize, right?
Mm.
And and I after 2 years in that office, I was like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'm just going to adjust people. Why would I want to do anything else? These people are having amazing results, getting their life changed, and I'm enjoying myself here. So that experience, getting to work for Dr. Shane Hand, was life changing, and that's where I took all the principles and the philosophy and the information that I learned in his office and started my own practice with it.
Right on. Can you describe your current practice, what it looks like, what it feels like, what the experience of the people that come in are like, how you meet with them before they even come into the office and help educate them or bring them into seeing things the way that you see them and help them heal through this process we call chiropractic?
Absolutely. So right now we do a lot of, I used to do a lot of in-person lectures all the time, business lunch and learns, and office lectures in the practice. We transitioned a few months ago to virtual workshops, and they've exploded. I mean, I'm seeing, I don't know, 10 to 20 times the amount of people show up to my virtual workshops, excuse me, than they did in my personal. So it's working really well. And education is a key for our practice. And a lot of times we're able to educate people about what goes on in our practice before they even come see us because they're coming to our workshops. And then once they're in our office, we have a 3-day process. The day one is the exam. We sit down with them, go over the history, any range of motion tests or X-rays that we need to do is day one. And I really want to get a picture of, what that person's goals are, where they want to be, why they came in. And then what we do, we have a documentary that we created called A Better Way. And I used to do what we call a doctor's report. I don't know if you ever heard of those, but I would be at the office late at night, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. sometimes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I was all in at that moment. It was fine. But today, like, I really don't want to spend all that time away from my kids, right? And so what we use is that movie as my doctor's report, and it works amazingly well. It's very well done. And after day one in the exam, they get a promo code to go watch that movie. And I asked them if they will watch it before their report of findings, which we schedule. And I'm going to ask them some questions about it, right? So then they come back for their report of findings. We go over their X-rays. I ask them if they watched the movie, and they a lot of times after that really understand why they would need the care. And we go over their care recommendations and financials on day two. When they start care, if they start care on day two, they may get adjusted on that day, but usually just the adjustment. But day three is their full day in the office, and where we introduce them to the concept of spinal hygiene and lifetime spinal care. And so in day three, what that might look like is a patient would come in. We have little key cards, so they just come in and scan in. That's how they check in, and then they're showed over to the wobble seat area. So it's what we call our hot seats, where they're doing some spinal exercises to warm up. And when a table opens, they jump on the table. They could get adjusted. Then they're taken over to our corrective care rehab section, where we would do like two-way curve traction if they have loss of neck curve, reverse posture exercises on the wall if they have shifts or translations, vibration platform, maybe some either prolordotic neck exercises or head weights. And so those are prescriptive a lot of times, right? So I'm writing that prescription. You need to do a left translational exercise. And he doesn't need to tell his wife to do a left translational exercise because it's his prescription, right?
Right.
But when they go to check out on day three, they're given what's called a spinal hygiene kit. And in that spinal hygiene kit, there are home exercises that the whole family can do. So these are non-prescriptive exercises that I believe everyone should be doing. And it's just like in dentistry, they teach us how to brush our teeth. Everyone should be brushing. They teach us how to floss. Everyone should be flossing. And because they've built that awareness that you should be taking care of your teeth, kids are getting checked at. I took, my 3 boys to the dentist as soon as they had teeth in their mouth. They didn't have a cavity. There was no pain. I didn't think there was an issue. It was just, that's just what you do. You take your kid to the dentist to have them checked, right? And make sure they grow
Right.
up with great dental health. And I think the responsibility should fall on us as chiropractors to instill that, to teach that, and to show that, and say, look, your spine's important. You need to be aware of it. Everyone in the family needs to be taking care of it. We want to get them scheduled for a checkup.
Mhm.
And so that's how we transition from, even though our office is what I would call a corrective care office, we also provide lifetime spinal care, and that would be through the form of education and even wellness visits after they finish their initial corrective care plan.
Mhm. So yeah, when I was in chiropractic school, I got exposed to the concept of spinal hygiene through Dr. James Chestnut, but also through the program at Life University, where the World Health Organization endorsed a program called Straighten Up America to teach kids how to better their posture through spinal range of motion exercises. And I was really in love with that concept. I thought that it was central to how I was going to practice, and it still is to this day. On day two, I'm teaching people spinal hygiene. I believe it's central to just bringing people into the fold of recognizing the value of their spine. Can you talk about the spinal hygiene movement? I saw you flash the label there, and
Yeah.
where it started, and where it's at and where it's going.
Yeah, so thank you. We've been working on this for well over a decade, and it's just now starting to really build the momentum. We have joined with Life University. We created the first certified spinal hygienist program where docs can go to or send their staff as well. Um, we've been in hundreds of offices as far as recommending our core four exercises that people do on a daily basis: range of motion, resistance band for head forward posture, wobble disc, and spinal molding. And then recently, we just started an International Spinal Hygiene Association where we joined with docs from Iceland and Australia, and we just launched that. We actually have a spinal hygiene summit that's coming up February 19th and the 21st. It's free to attend live, and anybody who does purchase the lifetime access, all proceeds go to the Australian Spinal Research Foundation, and we're trying to fund studies that will show, regular spinal hygiene and chiropractic visits could prevent spinal degeneration. And we need to link those two with research.
Yeah, there's a new school opening this year in Australia called the ACC, and I'm sure that they would love to get behind that project and introduce their new students to it. It's the first quote unquote principled vitalistic chiropractic school in Australia, which is really exciting. I'm sure you've heard of it or
Very
maybe
nice.
you're aware of it. Um, what do you think about pre-Chiro students becoming certified spinal hygienists and using that as a avenue to get familiar with chiropractic care or make themselves valuable in an office, maybe get a job before chiropractic school, teaching people spinal hygiene in chiropractic offices?
I think that would be brilliant for somebody to do. In fact, it's been a story about a spinal hygienist that did complete our program at Life University. She was a CA in El Paso, and she learned so much as becoming a spinal hygienist that she actually goes out and does lectures in the community, and then brings in new patients for her chiropractor that she works for, and just as a huge value to the office. And she plans on starting chiropractic school. I believe it's maybe in the fall or something like that in at Life University. So I think that would be a great idea because there's such a we dive in when you're going through spinal hygiene, the spinal hygienist program, which you could go to spinalhygienist.com if you want to check it out. They we dive into the philosophy of chiropractic. We dive into anatomy and physiology. It's not just about an exercise, although we do also dive into exercise physiology, and it's really a whole entire encompassing education.
Hmm. Right on. So, what do you think the research is going to lead to? What's the policy change that we're looking to see happen in the future with better research on the importance of spinal hygiene?
Yeah, so great question. And we have a lot of advancements in medical technology are now showing that we can track biomarkers inside of the body. So, for example, if we were going to build a research study and try to determine if chiropractic and spinal hygiene could prevent degeneration of the spine, we would probably have to do that study for like 40 years or something like that. And we'd have to have a couple of groups, one that gets adjusted all the time and does their spinal hygiene, one that doesn't, and then they'd all have to stay in that study, and then we'd take X-rays of their spine as they go on. That would be a very, very tedious. Probably the reason why it hasn't been done yet, right?
Mhm.
But now, through the advancements of technology and biomarkers, we can actually test urine and blood samples, and the body releases biomarkers that show us the rate of degeneration that's happening in spinal tissues. Like it can be so specific, we can actually note disc degeneration from those biomarkers. And so, what the proposed model for research would be is to take people, test those biomarkers, see what their degeneration rate is, put them on programs of spinal hygiene and chiropractic, and then show that those biomarkers are showing a decreased rate of degeneration of the spine. I really think it's going to be a no-brainer, and once we just do it, I think it'll be um, you know, pretty evident information.
Mhm. Can you get creative on what the research agenda could look like if we had pre-chiropractic students participating in spinal hygiene research in their exercise physiology labs as part of their independent study as a senior in college or on campuses around the world, just creating a network or a consortium of different schools that are participating in this spinal hygiene because it's relevant to college students, high school students that are sitting all day, that are on these
Yeah.
iPads, that that could really be beneficial for the overall well-being of that whole population, not just the people that are interested in becoming chiropractors.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thought, and I don't think it would be too difficult once the model for the research experiment is constructed. Then we would just need students to follow those guidelines. Like, you know, we need you to do these exercises, this amount every day. You need to be checking in with a chiropractor once a week or every other week, or the frequency that we have them on, and then checking back in with some type of lab that could test, you know, whether it's urine or blood samples that they're doing, and then just have students who are participating follow those guidelines and turn in information to the lead researchers, and you know that could be done. That could definitely be done.
What would you say would be possible if we had 10 million, 100 million invested in the chiropractic profession, and we had another 10 to 100,000 chiropractors that were focused on not only chiropractic but also spinal hygiene
Mhm.
around the world?
I'll tell you what it would look like. It, in my opinion, is a huge influx of new patients and families that would start to get under chiropractic care. For example, let me show you a Gallup poll. Recent Gallup poll said that 97% of Americans brush their teeth on a regular basis. So what that means basically is 97% of Americans are aware that they should do something to take care of their teeth, right? What that number translates to is about 50% of Americans visiting a dentist regularly. So not everybody that brushes their teeth visits the dentist regularly. At least they know that they're supposed to do something about their teeth. But because of that awareness, 50% of Americans visit a dentist regularly. That makes dentistry the second largest healthcare profession in the world. Now let's look at the numbers for chiropractic. How many people do you think do a spinal hygiene exercise on a daily basis? Uh,
0.01.
Exactly. It's probably everybody listening on this call. It's like all of us chiropractors, right? So that number, what that means is there is zero awareness that we should do anything to take care of our spine. And this is evident. You could walk down the street and ask the next person you come across, what do you do to take care of your spine? And they're going to look like you at you like you're crazy, right? And so there's zero awareness, and what that translates to in numbers is what we might be seeing 5% of the world's population, or even in the United States, regularly, like a regular basis. And usually it's because those guys are just trying to prevent back pain, right? And so imagine if we had the numbers that dentistry did. What if 97% of Americans just did an exercise for their spine on a daily basis? They did spinal hygiene. If they were just aware that they should do something. And what if that massive awareness translated to 50% of Americans visiting a chiropractor regularly? I mean, we better crank out some more chiropractors quickly because we could not handle those numbers. And I really think that's what could happen with spinal hygiene if we could just build that awareness and let people know it's important to take care of their spine, and here's how you do it. That's what dentistry did.
Absolutely. And yeah, this is the pre-Chiro movement. The goal is to connect with companies and movements such as the spinal hygiene movement to really bridge that gap in understanding for the general population, specifically on college campuses where you've got the educated people really learning about how to take care of themselves for the first time. They've moved away from home. They're primed to, they're in classrooms, they're learning, they're open, there's new environment, new messaging, and I think it's the perfect time to really introduce them to spinal hygiene and chiropractic. So I want to thank you for all the work you're doing. One last reflection piece just for the pre-Chiro students, if you could. Um, you mentioned that you've done hundreds, if not thousands, of lectures. You've obviously built programs. You've conducted online business endeavors. Can you talk about like how you consume information, organize the information into information products, and then prepare to launch a product or to reach a community, whether it be digitally or in your office?
Yeah, sure. You know, I think the most important thing that you mentioned there, and maybe even the thing to start with, Well, maybe two things to start with. Number one is to get really clear and focused on the information so that you're, and you may not have a doctor in the front of your name yet, but you could know the information a lot better than 99% of the population if you just research it and study it. And so, step one is to definitely know that information, something maybe you're passionate about, that you care about, and really dive into that research and make sure that you become a master at it as much as possible. We'll continue to be learning for the rest of our life and trying to mastering things for the rest of our life, but trying to be a master as much as possible in something you care about. And then the second thing that I think was so important that you mentioned is the community. That building that community is more important than the product that you create. And so what the whole overarching big picture is to get great at understanding something you're passionate about, be that master, and then try to deliver it to the people that need it. And try to think of ways that you can package it, that you could deliver it. There's so many different ways and vehicles like podcasts now, or blogs, or YouTube channels, or Facebook, like Facebook Lives, and so there's so many vehicles for you to deliver the information that you have, and the important thing is that you're delivering to somebody who it's going to help. And when you start to build that group of people, that community, now that positions you and puts you in a place that you can start looking into maybe how do I put a program together, right? And because when people actually put money down, they are committed, right? So you're going to have a lot of information you give away for free, and you're going to see the community kind of come and go with that information. It's going to help some people, others won't listen. But when they actually start putting that money down and they say, oh, I'm going to buy that program, now you have a captive audience. You could really make a bigger impact on them. I mean, there's nothing wrong with giving things away for free, but I'm telling you, when you start charging for something, you're going to notice how more committed those people are, and how their life changes even more. And so, you could package that. I use a lot of my stuff is softwares like uh, uh, ClickFunnels or Kajabi, and those are monthly fees. So you really do kind of want to, that's going to increase your overheads. You want to have maybe a program you could sell that helps you to pay that. But I think those programs nowadays are so easy to put together, a video series and build it into a membership site, build a nice landing page. And the cool thing is once you do that, it helps you to continue building the community. That's what the important part is, right? And so with that landing page, you collect emails and their names, and then you go back to what we were talking about, delivering that masterful information that you have to that community. It's kind of the way I see that in the big picture.
Thank you so much. That's very valuable and is very insightful from someone who's done it, has the experience, and can share it with the next generation. Because I believe we really do need more clarity in sort of constructing a parallel curriculum to your chiropractic education, where you're learning some of these fundamental skills on how to operate into 2021. So, thank you, Dr. Tabor. I really appreciate your time and your energy, and can't wait to see what you've got coming next. Is there any plans for this international spinal hygiene? Uh, can you just share what the
Yeah.
plans are for how that is going to help you grow this movement further?
Absolutely. So the International Spinal Hygiene Association is created to deliver education that's needed, and also to fund more research. And so we are going to creatively put together events and programs like the Spinal Hygiene Summit, which again is just spinalhygienesummit.com. And all proceeds are going to be going to research foundations to advance chiropractic, and to get the awareness and the information out to the public.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you.